Hello everyone and welcome to another Illustrator tutorial. I'm your host, Elias Arentopoulos. For this ornamental design, we will use a variety of Illustrator techniques, creating tapered brushes and curved paths, working with the Shape Builder tool, applying transform effects, and understanding how to use Illustrator for your own projects. Up next. So inside Adobe Illustrator with a new document open and a reference photo placed into, let's go ahead and start this off by creating a tapered brush, which is going to cover this stroke path. Now, tapered brushes are based on circles. So in this case, I will go ahead and grab the ellipse tool and draw out a squashed ellipse. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. I'm just going to click and drag to create a shape as such. This is one thing. Then I will switch to the selection tool and I'm just going to squash this even more. All right, something along those lines. Now here's the thing. This end here is very pointing for my taste here because we're trying to do this. Right here, you see this path here doesn't close, it doesn't have such a tapered end. So in this case, we're going to create two additional anchor points here. So I will go ahead and grab the anchor point tool and just click once and click once here. Then I will switch to the direct selection tool, marquee select this end anchor point, and press delete on the keyboard to remove it. Now, and we need to make sure that this is a straight segment. So I'm just grab this anchor point and just make sure this is a straight segment. Now, what we are left is basically an open path, but in this case, we need to have a closed shape. So I will switch to the pen tool. I will click on this anchor point, and then I will hover over here. As you can see, we get a circle appearing right next to the pen tool. That means we are ready to close the path. So click on that, and now we have a closed shape. As for this end, I will marquee select this anchor point and just remove that using the delete key on the keyboard. And then here, again, we have an open shape, which means we're going to click on this anchor point tool, and we're going to close the path right there. Here it is. Here's the shape. But let me go ahead and actually taper this in even more. So I will use the direct selection tool, click on this anchor point tool and just bring this down a bit. And I'm holding the shift key as I do. I will do the same here. I will click and bring this up a bit. Something along those lines. Okay. So for now, I like what I see. So I will select this shape here. And then I will bring up the brushes panel, which means I will create a new brush. So I will click and drag and bring this inside the brushes panel. And now we are presented with a new brush panel here. So in this case, we're going to create a new art brush. Now we're using art brushes because art brushes stretch a brush shape or object shape evenly along a path, along the length of a path. And that's what we are going to do here for creating this path all along. So I'm just going to click OK. Let me go ahead and give it a name of tapered brush. There we go. And as for colorization, what I'm going to do is for the method, I'm going to use tints. Just in case I want to select any color I wish, and then the brush will take on that color. In this case, I'm just going to click OK. And let me bring this out of the way. I'm just going to put it right here. Now let's go ahead and focus on this path. We need to create this path here. So for that, I will use the pen tool. And all I'm going to do is just click and drag to create smooth points. Now we have a fill here. I need to have just a stroke. So I'm going to press the Shift X on the keyboard. Click and drag. Continue this. till you have a nice curved path here. So this is not perfect yet. So what we're going to do is select that and then apply this tapered brush to this path. Just click once. Great. Now, with this path selected, I'm going to up the stroke size to perhaps 3. You see, 3 is too much for me. Let me go ahead and use 2, or maybe I can go to 2.3, perhaps. Okay. So I have that. I'm still not very happy with the overall shape here. So what I can do is I can play around with this a bit and make sure that I have a better shape. All right. I mean, you can spend time on this and make it better and better and better. In any case, I like what I see here. So I'm just going to keep that. Maybe I can bring this up a bit here. There we go. All right, so I got that. Just in case I want to use this in the future, I'm just going to create a duplicate, bring this out of the way, and then select this path here. And I'm going to go to the object menu and use the expand appearance because I want to convert this to an actual shape. There you go. Now I'm going to mirror this to the other side, which means I will select the reflect tool, double click on that. We're going to do this vertically, but we need, of course, to create a copy. Select the selection tool and hold down the shift key and bring this to the other end. Now this is going to snap. And now these are two different shapes, which means I will marquee select this 2, and then I will go ahead and use the shape builder tool. Now I will select those two paths and I'm going to merge them together by dragging along this region right here. I'm not holding anything on the keyboard, just dragging along this region and then release the mouse. Those two regions now got merged to form a new shape. Great. Now, just bear in mind that this overall shape here, this ornament, is not correct geometrically. It's just a reference photo. So I will select this one now. And let me go ahead and create a copy. So I'm going to hold on the Alt key or the Option key. And I'm holding the Shift key as I do. I'm going to bring this right here. And let's see, I can go back to the Reflect tool, double click on that. I'm going to flip this horizontally and click OK. Let me go ahead and zoom in a bit and just place this right there. All right, great. So we got those two. Marquee select those two now. Inside the object menu, go ahead and group those two together. And now we need to create a bunch of duplicates. So for that, I will go ahead and use the transform effect. So go up to the effect menu, distort and transform, and choose the transform effect. Now this will reshape the object without making permanent changes to the underlying geometry. So first, I will have 4 copies. And then for the rotation angle here, I'm just going to use the up arrow key on the keyboard and do this interactively till all of these shapes intersect. And I think 36 degrees works for me. I'm going to click OK, and here it is. Now, as you can see, using this transform tool, right now the effect is live, which means we can actually modify this or remove the effect at any time. But since I like what I see, I will go ahead and go to the object menu and expand its appearance to convert this whole thing to an actual shape. Great. Everything looks fantastic except that we have these overlapping regions. For that, we're going to go back to the shape builder tool and we're going to actually use the erase mode of the shape builder tool by pressing the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac and just click on that and click on these regions to delete them. And I will do basically all around the same thing. I'm holding the Alt key or the Option key, removing those. There we go. Very few left. I believe I have 2 more to go. And yep, that's it. So let me go ahead and double click here on the zoom tool. Everything looks fine except the fact that we still have some overlapping shapes here. So in this case, I will go to the window menu and I'm going to bring up the Pathfinder. Here it is. Now with this one, what we're going to do is we're going to combine this opposite and create one shape. So for that, under the shape modes, I will go ahead and use the unite function. Just click once and here is the shape. And if I toggle off the visibility of this template layer here, this is what we have so far. Things are looking great. And now we are ready to go to the next step. So for the next step, we're going to work for this inner fill path right here. So first I will lock this tapered brush layer so I don't accidentally move it and toggle off its visibility, and then click on this inner fill path layer because the rest of them are locked, so I won't be able to do anything. Alright, so let me go ahead and zoom in a bit. I will grab the pen tool. I'll make sure that there's no fill. I just want to have a stroke color here. And all I'm going to do is just click and create straight segments like so, because I just want to show you another way how to bend straight segments and create smooth curves out of them, which means I'll right click to grab the anchor point tool. And all I'm going to do is just hover over here and just click and drag. And what I do is that it goes ahead and gives us those control handles automatically, which as you can see, it's a time savior. I will do the same one on this straight segment here. Just bend this. And on this one too, I'm just going to click and drag and bend this. Then immediately I'm going to switch to the direct selection tool because I need to make sure that these control handles are straight, which means I'm holding down the shift key as I do. This one too. Let's look at this one. This needs to be straight. And this one too. All right. I think things are looking pretty good. I like what I see, so I'm just going to keep that and then switch to the selection tool. Select that. Now we're going to mirror this to the other side, which means if we double click on the reflect tool, we're going to reflect this vertically, but of course we need to have a copy. Switch to the selection tool, click and drag this, hold on the shift key as you do, and this is going to snap right here. Great. Now, these basically are 2 different paths, and we can see this inside the layers panel. And all I'm going to do is use the direct selection tool, marquee select those 2 endpoints, and this time we need to join those. So I will go up to the object menu, path, and I'm going to average those both. So click OK, and then back on the object menu, path, and join them together. You see, this is now a single path. Great. So what's next? Well, we need to do the same here. We're going to basically create another duplicate and move it right here. So marquee select this with the selection tool. I will double click on the reflect tool. This time we're going to reflect this horizontally, but we do need to have a copy. So I'm just going to click on the copy here, switch the selection tool, click and drag. Hold on the shift key as you do, and just move it right there. All right, that looks good. And I will marquee select those 2, and I will group them together. So I will go up to the object menu and group them. Again, we're going to run the same effect, the transform effect, and that will reshape the object without making any permanent changes to the underlying geometry. So back on the effect menu, distort and transform, and then transform. I'm going to have 4 copies again. And for the rotation angle, I'm just going to use the up arrow key to probably get to 36 degrees as I did before. Click OK. I like what I see. So I will go up to the object menu and again expand its appearance. So I have just single shape here. Great. So here's the overlapping paths, which we don't need. We need to remove those. So for that, we're going to use again the Shape Builder tool. And I will hold down the Alt key or the Option key and get to the Erase mode. Just going to click and drag those regions and remove those overlapping paths here. And there we go. We have those two here, this one and this one. Great. So everything looks great here. So the next logical step is to select all this, and instead of a stroke, we're going to have a fill. But then we do run in this issue, and that is because all of these paths are actually individual paths. We have go ahead back and switch to the stroke here. Let me go ahead and zoom in. I'm going to show you. You see, these are not connected. They're not joined. So what we need to do is we need to join those. So there's another easy way to do it, is to actually grab the join tool. And all I'm going to do with the join tool is drag over all of these corners in order to fuse them together. This way, this way, this way. And just drag those over like so. And that should do the trick. So how we're going to test this, we're going to select all that and we're going to swap between stroke and fill, and I'm using the keyboard shortcut. And as you can see, things are working great. This is one thing. Let me go ahead and toggle on the visibility of this layer. Also, I also unlocked it. Marquee selectors too, and make sure they are aligned horizontally and vertically. And I believe both of them are aligned. All right. Like so. All right. So for the next step for us is to work on this inner circle with those spikes. All right. So next up, let's go ahead and work on this circle with all of these spikes. I have already created the layer here inside the layers panel, the circle with spikes, which means I will right click to get to the ellipse tool. And all I'm going to do is just click and drag. And as I do, I will hold down the Alt Shift or Option Shift and create a perfect circle from the very center and just release. Now, no need to have any strokes here. So I'm just going to disable the stroke. I do want to have a fill here with black color. Great. So here's the first ellipse. Now I need to have one more of this ellipse. So I'll go to the edit menu, copy this ellipse, back on the edit menu and paste in front. And looking inside the layers panel, here are the two identical ellipse shapes. Great. So first of all, I will go ahead and lock this one and toggle off its visibility and work only on this ellipse. In this case, I will go ahead and run another effect. So I will go back to the effect menu and inside the distort and transform, I will use the zigzag. Now inside the options here and the size, I will size this up quite a bit. I'll set this to 90 points. This works on my end. The ridges per segment is set to 4 and I will leave this as is. But for the points, instead of corner, I'm going to have smooth points and then click OK. This is still a live effect, but because I like what I see, I'm not going to go back to it. So I will go back to the object menu and expand its appearance and have just a flat shape. Here it is right here. You see that right there. All right. So what I'm going to do now is make sure that this here is toggle off the visibility and is unlocked. Marquee selectors 2 here. So they are both selected. And I want to unite those two and become this as one shape. So inside the Pathfinder, all I'm going to do is just use the unite function, just clicking once. And this is one shape. Now, but we're not done with the shape. There's one more thing that I want to do. Let me go ahead and toggle off its visibility and show you that here between the spikes and the circle, we do have rounded corners. And the way we're going to achieve this is by switching to the Direct Selection tool, and then just click on the shape. The moment we do that, we get the live corner widgets. These are the live corner widgets. Now, we can do this interactively, right? Let me go ahead and undo this. Or we can do this up in the control bar and up the corner size to perhaps 6 points. Works on my end. Great, this looks great. And I think we have one more step here that we're going to actually need to select all of these here. Not this one, those two. And basically, we need to cut this from the circle with shapes. It needs to cut through to the inner fill path. Now, because I don't want the change to be permanent and use, for example, the shape builder tool, what I'm going to do is actually use the Pathfinder here. And in order for us to do that, we're going to use the exclude function. So I'm not just going to click, I'm just going to hold on the Alt key and then click. This creates here, looking at the layers panel, it creates a compound shape. It's a grouped path here, it's a grouped layer. So if I open this up, here are the two paths. I did this because that gives me the ability to manipulate the contents of this compound shape in case of having a flat path. And this is exactly what I was going for. And one more thing I'm going to do is, first of all, I don't need this anymore. Of course, I can just dump it if I wish, but I do need to have this two. So I will mark here, select those two and make sure these are aligned to each other in relation to each other. So I'm just going to center this horizontally and vertically, and it seems both of them are. And now we are ready to go to the next step and create those inner shapes here. So moving right along, let's go ahead and work on the dashed circle, this one right here. I have already created the appropriate layer inside the layers panel. So all I'm going to do is just grab the ellipse tool and create a perfect circle from the very center, which means I'm going to hold down Alt Shift or Option Shift and just release that. Now, no need to have any fill color. We just need to have a stroke, and the strokes should be set to black. There we go. All right. So now looking at the original, as you can see, the thickness of a stroke is quite much more, which means I will click on the drop-down menu here and I'm going to set this to 16 points. All right. Also, let me go ahead and just hold on Alt Shift or Option Shift to just size this down. And then since I know that this is going to be a dashed circle, I'm going to go to the window menu and I'm going to bring up the stroke panel. So first of all, let's go ahead and select the stroke. Here's the weight of the stroke. I'll go ahead and click on the icon to show more options. So here's the weight of the stroke. Now we need to check what it says dashed line. Now you're not going to see anything happening because we need to put some numbers here. So for that, I'm going to use the up arrow key on the keyboard and I'm going to set this to 20 points, and then I'm going to press the tab key on the keyboard to go to the next field. I'm also going to set this to 20 points. Again, I'm going to press the tab key to go to the next field, which is the dash. I'm going to keep this to 0, but then the gap here, I'm going to keep this to 20 points. Now this is one thing. Another thing that I need to do is, instead of having a butt cap, we're going to have a round cap. Here it is. Let me go ahead and zoom in a bit and just slightly rotate this to kind of match the original. And I think that is enough here. So this is one thing. Another thing I want to do is I want to make sure that this is a path. Rather, this is an editable stroke. So I will go to the object menu and under path, I'll go ahead and choose the outline stroke. And now this is a path with colored fill. Let's go ahead and see that. That looks good. So this is just this shape here. As for this one, what we can do is we can just do the same. create a circle right here and just use stroke here. And again, I'm going to up the stroke width to perhaps 10. I think that's enough here. And again, go to the object menu and also outline the stroke. So those two, I can select those two and make sure they're aligned in relation to each other. All right, things are looking good. And now we're ready to go to the next step. So for this next step is this inner circle. And again, I've created the appropriate layer inside the layers panel. And I will go ahead and grab the ellipse tool. I'm just going to click and drag, hold down the Alt Shift or Option Shift to create a perfect circle from the very center and just release. Now, no need to have any stroke here. I'm just going to remove the stroke and just make sure this circle here is around the center, more or less. I'm going to center this very soon. In any case, because I need to be able to draw these sections here, these intersecting shapes, what I'm going to do is just select the circle and then I will reduce its opacity. All right, great. Now I will go ahead and grab the rectangle tool and just click and drag and to create a rectangle as such. Great. Now I'm going to duplicate this. So I will hold down the Alt key or the Option key and just press the Shift key as I do. Select those two. Go to the object menu and group them together. Again, we're going to use the transform effect, which means I will go back to the effect menu and inside distorted transform, I will use the transform effect. All right. So again, we're going to use 4 copies and for the rotation angle, again, I'm going to use something like 36 degrees. I will click OK and now this is a live effect, but since I like what I see, I will go back to the object menu and expand its appearance. Great. Now I will click on this ellipse here and I will bring its opacity back to 100%. Target those 2 layers here. And again, we're going to use this time the Shape Builder tool and we're going to activate the erase mode, which means I'm going to hold down the Alt key or the Option key and just drag this region here to remove those. All right, just like that. It's a great tool to use and it's extremely effective. Great. Now, look at the very original. We do have a very, very slight curve, especially here. So all I'm going to do is with this tool selected, I'm going with this shape selected, I will go ahead and grab the direct selection tool. And the moment I do, we get again the live corners widget, which is this one too. And all I'm going to do is just up this to perhaps 1 point or 2. I think 2 will look a little better. So let's zoom out and let's see. That looks pretty good. And let me go ahead and create the inner circle here. So Alt Shift Option Shift, create that. All right. Make sure both of these are selected and targeted. I want to make sure that they are centered in relation to each other. So I'm going to basically create an empty hole here. So I will grab the Shape Builder tool, again, activate the erase mode, holding down the Alt key and click once. Great. So I got these two. I'll make sure all of these are selected. This one too. And I'm going to center them in relation to each other and everything looks pretty good. So I believe the last step is to create those arrows all around. All right, so we reached the very last step of this ornamental design. Let's go ahead and work on these arrows here. I have already created the appropriate layer inside the layers panel. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit, grab the pen tool and just create straight segments. I will use the same technique as I used this earlier. Just create straight segments, which I'm going to bend which means I will grab the anchor point tool. So I'm going to bend this straight segment, this one a bit here too, and this one. All right, now I'm going to switch to the direct selection tool because I need to fix this especially here. So make sure this is straight, bring this up, click on this anchor here and just bring this down a bit because I want to make sure that I have a nice curve. Same thing here. There we go. That looks good. So we'll switch to the selection tool, marquee select the whole shape here, and then double click on the reflect tool. We're going to reflect this vertically, but I need to have a copy. So click on that, switch to the selection tool, click and drag, hold on the shift key as you do, and this is going to snap. Then I will switch to the direct selection tool, marquee select these two endpoints, object menu, path, average both, back on the object menu, and then join them together. I will do the same one here. I will marquee select these two endpoints with the direct selection tool, object menu, path, average both, and object menu, and join them together. Great. This is a great shape here. Let's go ahead and instead of a stroke color, let's go ahead and just have a fill color here. So we've got that. All right. So I'm going to select that and go back to the reflect tool. I'm going to reflect this horizontally with a copy. Switch to the selection tool, click and drag downwards here and place this around there. All right. Just make sure these are centered. All right. And then I will go ahead and group them together. Again, we're going to use the transform effect. So back on the effect menu, distort and transform. And transform, we're going to use, again, the same number of copies. That will be 4 copies. And for the rotation angle, I'm going to use the up arrow key till I get to the 36-degree angle and just click OK. Now, this is a live effect, but since I like what I see, I'll go ahead and go to the object menu and expand its appearance. Great. So this is it. Let's go ahead and toggle on the visibility of the rest of the layers and make sure that everything is unlocked. That looks good. We can also marquee select everything here and we can just center things in relation to each other. This is a little bit off. That's okay. I'm just going to move this to the very center like so. So as you can see, we use some great techniques to create such an complicated ornamental shape for your own projects. Well, thank you everyone for visiting my channel, spending time with me, developing your skills. Do not forget to subscribe and most of all, share the knowledge.